Hello everybody out there in the music community. This is Micro Soldier 777 coming at you. Figured to show you a video regarding what's spinning or what I've been listening to lately. And so let's get right to it. So I showed these albums or CDs in recent videos, recent pickups from different online retailers. So, and I also discussed the cosmetics, the look of these albums. So now we're going to get into the meat of the CDs, which is basically the sound or the music. So let's get right to it. So I went through the entire Petra reissues done by Gerder. So that's their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I went through the entire discography that Gerder had reissued, which were all these wonderful albums from Petra. And just to let you know that the Petra period from the early 70s when they started to the early mid 90s, especially from about 81 to 93, is my favorite period of Petra. So I went through Wash As Wire Then, Never Say Die, this came in 81, this came out in 79 originally. Okay. More Power to You, which is probably my favorite album of the Greg's Volts period. Not Of This World. Beat the System, of course. Back to the Street. This Means War. And On Fire. This covered a period from about 79 to 88 in the Petra historical discography. Yeah. So I like to basically say that when I listen to these albums, I hear things you hear little things that you don't quite hear before, like when Praise Ye Lord kicks in, a certain guitar riff kicks in that I didn't quite hear before at the beginning of the song. I heard that little difference. The bottom end or the bass is much more pronounced and has more of a punch on these releases. I've noticed too where on my originals, I believe it was, especially on Now This World, the volume on the recording on the original one wasn't as loud. This one's much more louder. That's one thing I've noticed. Also, I've noticed that certain parts are more thicker, has more of a thicker vibe, especially on Fire. That's where I definitely notice a difference. The drums is more of a thicker punch, like a thicker production. I noticed that on the On Fire album, so I definitely noticed that. And overall, the original recordings in and of themselves were great, but Rob Caldwell sort of added, the instrumentations is much more clearer, the vocals is much more clearer, the nuances of the sound effects is more clearer, that kind of thing. Overall, it's a great remastering. It sounds like it's got a greater punch. It's almost like when you take an old classic car, like an old Dodge or an old Ford, and give it a paint job and you rebuild a motor from ground up. That's what these CDs are like. It's almost like taking that an old classic that's been part of your life for so long and building it from the ground up. That's what it's like to me when I re-listen to albums, and like bands like Petra and Rez is near and dear to my heart because they were the first of many bands I really liked in 1985 when I really got into Christian rock, hard rock, and metal. Petra and Rez were the first two bands I enjoyed listening to back then, and I enjoy listening to this day. So, I kind of was listening to it with a critical ear, getting the nuances and getting the vibe. And I must say, these are well put together, well produced. So Greg Hayes and Scott Waters and Rob Caldwell, whoever else was involved, did a great job. So that's pretty much my take on the remastering. Next up, we're going to talk about the Rez Band. So that was also done by Girder Music. So we have Bootleg, right? We have Hostage. Then we have Between Heaven and Hell. And this was a period when I first got into Rez, was with these three albums. I had a loan of a cassette tape from a friend who had Hostage and Bootleg taped off on a 90-minute cassette. And my father took that cassette to his place of work because he worked with the Pentecostal School Board and taped off tape on another 90-minute cassette. So I would listen to over and over again those tunes. So Hostage and Bootleg really resonated with me. I was like 14 years old in '85. So when Girder redid these, I jumped on a chance of getting them. And like I said, they did a wonderful job with these remasters. I've heard this album for the first time in its entirety in a long time. Because I only had this on vinyl and cassette. I never had it on CD. And like the memories kind of flood back when I used to listen on cassette. Like hearing the song Playground. It sort of got a new wavy vibe to it. Game Room. Don't Be Riff to Military Man. Glenn Cosner at the end of the song says, "Are you ready to rock?" At the end of the song, and it's sort of extended version of Military Man. It's just an incredible song, especially in this live album, the live version. Hearing White Noise, when he starts off with a solo from Stu Heiss, then they between that when he Cosner starts singing, hear that on the live. I think the fans. Something to me, the fans in the front by the stage was bouncing on the stage, or it might have been. I'm not sure if Stu Heiss was hitting the bass drum at the same time when the fans were tapping at the same time. I'm not sure, but that vibe helps add to the wonderfulness of White Noise. So, kind of like Stu Heiss, where he shows his chops on the intro to White Noise. Got the bluesy Quay Enough, another great tune from Rez. So like little things like that, really brings back memories, and memories kind of flood back. And of course, with Rez Band Hostage. Now, when I first got into Rez, I didn't like the heavier songs. I liked the more moderate rock songs, but I like everything on this album. But it wasn't for long. Over a few months, I got into the heavier stuff. My favorite songs on Hostage is Attention and Tears and Rain. They're my two favorite songs in this album. Really, really great. Like I said, you got other good songs like SOS and Defective Youth, great tune. And that still applies today, lyrics on that tune. Crimes. Walk Away, it's more of a slower song. But yes, the mastering in this was awesome. This is a great, very well done production by Rob Caldwell again. Instrumentations are clear, and things like that. And then in '86, in July, I bought these on cassette. So there you have it. In late December of '85, say around December of '85, late '85, I bought Between Heaven and Hell on cassette. So this has great memories on this. It's got a lot of good songs. I think my favorite song is probably Walk On. I know a lot of people go with Shadows, but I might be in the minority. I really like the song Walk On. Great song. But like my main event, Love Comes Down, South Africa, which is about apartheid. Walk On, I Think You Know, Shadows, Nervous World in 2000. They're the best. They're my favorite songs in the album. I'm not really into Save Me For Myself or Talk to Me. They're okay. They're a new wavy song. But Rez sort of returned to their hard rock metal roots and had less of a new wave, more of got that hard rock roots on this album. So gone back to the roots, even more so with the next album, Song Screams. And like I said, the instrumentation on these is very thick, really great, well done. if you are a fan of classic hard rock and metal, regardless if you're into Christian or non-Christian music, you need to get these. You need to get these 3 releases because you won't be disappointed. And especially if you like that bluesy hard rock. If you're in that kind of vibe, get these albums. And if you like great guitar playing, like Eddie Van Halen type guitar playing, get these albums because Stu Heist is a very underrated guitar player. So there you have it. So yeah, great albums to listen to. And I really enjoy these albums. Next up is a new band for me. They're not a new band. They ran back in the mid 80s to the early 90s. And then they're back together again, or at least one of the members is. And that's the band Trytan. Now, Trytan is a band from Chicago. They're a proggy band. And if you like bands like Boston, Boston, Triumph, Rush, you like this band. Now, I went through these albums, both of these albums, and I thought would like them more. I listened to them. I think they're okay, but not great. The remastering is great. Nothing against the remastering or packaging, or mastering is great. The packaging is great. All that's great. I listened to it, and it didn't really grab me like I hoped it would. Now I do like their new Trytan one that came out there 2021. I do like that one. I gotta get that to listen to and give you my thoughts. But I think what I got to do with this one is I got to probably, and sometimes when you listen to an album for the first time, in its entirety of a band you missed out on in your first run, and I'm not sure if you guys can probably comment on this. Sometimes you can over-listen to an album. In other words, you're sitting out the album, absorbing it, and reading the lyrics and critiquing it in your mind instead of casually listening to it. Like it's like listening to an old friend. I can casually listen to Rez. I know every song, every lick, that kind of thing. I can casually listen to Rez. It's been part of me, since it came out in '85. Whereas Trytan is a brand new band for me. I wasn't into them back in the '80s, early '90s. So I think what it was, I was listening to it and trying to get used to it. Maybe I was trying too hard. I think what I gotta do with this one is that when I'm out for a drive in the car, pop in the CD and just let it play. Don't forward any songs, just let it play. I think that's what I need to do with this one. I think I would like it much more. Sometimes you can over listen to an album like you're, especially when you're not familiar with the band at all, which I'm late to the party with this band. I think I need to listen to it more and get used to it and pop in my car, let it play if I'm out running errands or doing some things, or if I happen to have put on my stereo at home in the house and let it blast it. Well, if I'm doing stuff around the house like tying up, that kind of thing. I think that's what I need to do with this album, and I think I would like it much more. So anyway, folks, that's all I have for now. Hope you enjoyed this episode of What's Spinning. Let me know your thoughts, what you think, and stay heavy. Praise God. Psalms 150. All the best. Bye now.